toll on the Bulls dynasty. I see both here. Shannon, is Scottie Pippen's career overrated or underrated?
I think it's underrated. And anytime you play with a historically great player, Skip, you're going to be devalued. That's just the way it is. It took Kobe playing without Shaq for us to get a proper appreciation of who Kobe Bryant was. Because Shaq carrying Kobe. He carried him. Kobe wasn't getting the credit that he deserved. I don't think Mikhail gets the credit that he deserved because he played alongside Bird, Skip. That's just, who can play alongside LeBron and get the proper credit? We devalue Chris Bosh. We devalue D-Wade. We devalue Kyrie. Kyrie was what you see right now. Kyrie was doing that with LeBron. But we didn't give him the credit. And Skip, we got to stop this notion. If a guy doesn't win the MVP, he's a bum. You can be a great player and never win an MVP. It's okay. And it's like, well, he wasn't Michael. Who was? There's only one really, when we think about that, Skip, there's even one guy that even gets brought up in the conversation, whether you believe it or not. I had a conversation with Ken Griffey Jr., and he was telling me the story how some parents were saying, well, your son will never be you. He said, well, name 5 people who ever was. Skip, I mean, there ain't no slight to say he's not Michael Jordan, Skip. I mean, the guy, what we see with LeBron, the point forward, was him. The championship runs, he led in rebounds, he led in points, he led in steals, he led in block shots. Jordan led in scoring. Normally, he took the best offensive player. He guarded the Larry Birds. He guarded the tough assignment, the Magic Johnson. Scottie Pippen took him. He was a 10-time all-defensive player. 8 times he was on the first team. What was Michael Jordan? Scottie, you got to remember what Michael Jordan was before you. Oh, a guy that never got out of the first round? A guy that never won the MVP? A guy that was never, what was he? Now, I think a lot of what Scottie is misplaced. Jordan never undervalued because you can't get mad at Jordan because of the way Skip Bayless or others perceive you. That ain't Jordan's fault. So I think a lot of this, Skip, is misplaced. I agree with him that he threw Scottie under the bus. He put some things in the Last Dance documentary that Scottie felt was disrespectful and took a shot at him. Yep. But where I can get with Scottie is that he has this animosity towards Jordan. Well, Jordan don't say it in any list. Jordan's never said. Jordan's been effusive in his praise. Yep. There's no Michael Jordan without Scottie Pippen. He said that over and over. So I just think there's some things that's going on. Maybe he's not as close. It's okay, Scottie. You won't be the first great player that worked close to the player that was better on your team. That's okay. But I think this has a lot, Skip. This has not just happened. This ain't just come about because of no book. Scottie Pippen has been feeling this way for a very, very long time. And I think The Last Dance was the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back. So I agree with him on a few things, but when it comes to this, it's misplaced. He need to be mad at guys like you. Guys like sit around the desk and say you overrated. That's what we should be mad about, not 23. So I can't get with him on all this. A few of these things, I'm on his side. But hey, at the next stop, Skip, I had to get off the bus.
My turn. I covered the 1998 Chicago Bulls, the Last Dance Bulls for the Chicago Tribune, so I was there. I knew a lot of people in and around that team, and yet I have had media friends of mine who I've known forever try to make the case to me that Scottie Pippen was one of the most, if not the most underrated player in NBA history. Right. And I am dumbfounded by that whole notion because to me, he is one of the more overrated players in NBA history because I saw it up close and personal with my own eyes and my own gut feelings and my own eye testing. Scottie was viewed within the organization as not the mentally toughest guy, not a leader, more of a follower, that Michael did wonders for him just being in Michael's orbit in his force field because it raised the level of Scottie's game. He was a talented player. He was a very good player. But he was also, in the end, mostly a product of Michael Jordan when it came to he was one of the top 50 players. There is no way he's one of the top 50 if he were the alpha and the leader and the leading scorer or the dominant player on another team. He's not going to be a top 50 player. And just for the record, when he left Chicago after Michael walked into the sunset and said, if you run Phil off, I'm done. And Michael stayed retired for 3 years after 1998. And Scotty went on to Houston and joined forces with Akeem Olajuwon and Charles Barkley and did nothing there. That team just flamed out. And Scotty averaged 14 for that team. Then he went to Portland and averaged 13 points and 12 points. And the first Portland team did get to the conference finals.
He was old, though.
Was he?
Yeah.
He was 33 and 34, which was Michael was 34 in the Last Dance season. Right. Okay. So all that sticks in my mind and my craw about this is, let's go back to the migraine game, shall we? Mm-hmm. Because it was against Detroit in Game 7, 1990.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, Scotty comes up with a migraine. And they brought it up in the documentary because Jordan was just beside himself, like, I need you now.
Right.
You got to come with me here. I need some help here to go after these bad boys because they were bad boys. And what happens in Game 7? Scotty gives them a grand total of 2 points and 4 rebounds. Went 1 of 10 from the floor and 0 for 2 from 3 and didn't even shoot a free throw. And Michael scored 31 with 8 rebounds and 9 assists, and they got blown out, 93-74. Okay, so that was issue number 1.
He's like, well, what I got to be in the Last Dance? That ain't got nothing to do with 98 season.
All right, so then we get to the 1.8 seconds left game.
Oh, yeah.
Which is Game 3 of the 94 playoffs, round 2 against the Knicks. And there's no Michael because he is, quote-unquote, retired. He was forced to retire. Okay. Scotty won't acknowledge that. And Scotty was in the huddle, and Phil Jackson calls the last shot for Tony Kukoc with Scotty inbounding the ball, reminiscent of LeBron at Chicago, right?
Correct.
When Black called the last play for Kyrie. And LeBron said, hell no. And to LeBron's credit, he said, give me the damn basketball. And it wasn't a 3, it was a 2 from the corner. But he made it. That was one of the best shots LeBron has ever made because it was a mad shot. I love LeBron mad. Scotty didn't get mad. He quit. He pouted. He sulked. He just sat on the bench and said, I won't even go in the game. And to Kukoc's credit, he went in and stroked it home. And they won the game and survived and got all the way to Game 7 against the Knicks, but they lost in 7. And in the
Hugh Hollins gave that bull.
That was a whole nother issue. But in the Game 3 post-game locker room, Scotty got excoriated by all the rest of the Bulls who said no.
Bill Cartwright was hurt.
No.
He said, Scotty, you let us down.
You cannot do that. And then Scotty recently went on Dan Patrick's show, and he's said this several times in his career, and accused Phil of being racist by doing that, by calling the last shot for Kukoc.
But he took it.
But in the book, he took it back. But he dismisses it as the moment of truth had come for Phil, and he abandoned me. Is the point. But he also backed off and said, for 30 years I tried to make it racist.
Justify why he would do that, because that's the only explanation that I could give. That he had to be racist in order to take that. He keeps saying, Skip, that's my moment. That was my moment.
Yep. Okay. And then my third instance of Scottie Pippen came in Game 6, Michael's last game in the Last Dance season at Utah in the NBA Finals. Okay. And before the game, I was told by Bulls insiders that Scotty was under the weather, number 1, but he was also dealing with the back tightening, spasming. And so he was not himself. And what did Michael do in Game 6? He went out and scored 45 points of their 87. Because they ended up winning 87-86. And if we could see at the end of the game what happened, you can see the last shot here on Brian Russell. And Scotty's just wide open, and he was there. I have a picture of it where his hands were up for a second wanting the ball, and Michael just took one little look at him and said, nah.
You're like, man, I ain't finna pass you the ball with that bad back.
I'm not going to let you do this. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to hold the pose. And I've told you before, I'm not a memorabilia collector, but I bought this picture while I was at the Chicago Tribune because it was down in the gift shop at the Tribune, and it's an end zone shot of Scotty with his hands up like this and Michael about to do what he did. And it's vintage. It's classic. That was the essence of their relationship. And again, Scotty hates the Batman Robin, but he was Robin, and he was a very good Robin. But in the end, Batman just said, I got this. I'm going to make this shot. I'm going to hold the pose, and we're going to win 87-86, and I'm going to leave into the sunset.
Skip, I mean, I'm trying to think of a time that there was a situation that you've had what we call a duo, and you've had two Batmen.
Well, it won't work.
I mean, unless you get the Steph Curry KD, but that was a whole different dynamic. But Skip, when you
it didn't feel duo-ish.
it didn't.
No?
It did not.
Yep.
So, but see, Skip, I think the thing is that because y'all won't. Scotty said, if you gave me a little credit,